Again, I refer you again to the picture because we're going to talk now about, before he spoke about things that were out of the Beis HaMikdash, that were in the Azora, like I said, in the yard. Okay, you have a house and you have a yard in front of it. So same thing also, there was the Heichel. The Heichel was the house. The house consists of three parts. The front part is the Ulam, it's like an entrance lobby. Yes. And then there's the Kodesh, and then the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So what we spoke about yesterday, the different parts on the picture, they're all on the outside, in the Azora. Now he's going to talk about the inside, in other words, past the Ulam, going into the Kodesh. Okay, so he says there's a Menorah B'Darim. The Menorah was in Darim. Now you have to remember, this very over here is very good to explain it, because where I'm sitting now is Mizrach, and Darim is to the right, and Tzofan is to the left. In other words, Darim is going down south, going towards Coney Island, let's say, and this is going towards Manhattan. And then there's opposite, is Maida, is the west. So he's saying that the menorah stood on this side. What else did he say here? Hamneira b'darim mismol hanichnas. In other words, according to the person that walks in, like if I'm walking in, so it comes out on my left. The shulchan mimin. The shulchan is on the right side. She'olav lechem aponim. On the shulchan, we're going to later more details about the. Now he's just talking about the location. He's not talking the details of it. Ushneim b'tzad kodesh hakadoshim mibechutz. In other words, there's a room inside known as kodesh hakadoshim. So this on the outside of the kodesh hakadoshim. Umizbeach hakatayis. In kodesh, there was also mizbeach hakatayis, which I explained yesterday, that's also called mizbeach hazov. It was a golden mizbeach, and mostly what it was used for every day was the ketayis. What we're talking about in Peter Makatayis, that's the ketayis that the Kohen did every day in the Beis HaMikdash. So he's saying that Mizbeach HaKetayis Moshuch Miben Shneim L'chutz. In other words, the Mizbeach HaKetayis was, if you go back to the picture over here, so where's the you see over here, it's a little, in the middle over here between the menorah and the shulchan. That's not Mizbeach HaKetayis.
Where's the shulchan? Like I said.
Over here. You see over here? Yeah. Here's the menorah, here's the shulchan, yeah, and here's the Mizbeach in the middle.
Yeah. The picture's not right because it's out. Like I said.
Right. Now, according to the picture, so it looks like it's inside, but it's saying that it's Moshuch L'chutz, which means it's closer to the outside. Now he's going back to the front yard before the house. So he's saying, and that part is called Azora. So he's saying in the Azora there's lines, like what you call in English lines of demarcation. that show that cordoned off. What's the idea of these Nevulim? Ad kan Yisrael. Till here, Yisrael can go. Ad kan Lekahanim. Now, if you go back to our picture, so actually, this whole thing, the whole front, is called the Azora. In other words, you have to picture that you go up on a mountain. This is up. You go up on the mountain, and then there's when you go up a mountain. Like if you build a house on a mountain, so how do you do it? You make the house with indentations as the mountain goes up. So same thing over here also. There were like steps in the Azora. If you look at the pictures over here, you'll notice that right in the front, all the way on the bottom, there's steps. You see, this is steps over here. Mm-hmm. Then in the middle is again steps. You see over here, there's again steps because the mountain is going up. So you in order to get up to the next floor, they didn't build a room on a slant. They built a room straight. So you go up the steps and straight. You go up the steps and straight. So if you'll notice over here now, that in this whole area that's called Azora, there's over here there's a line with dots. You see it with dots, and it says Ezra's Kahanim. Over here it says Ezra's Kahanim. Okay. That means the Kahanim are allowed to come in here, but Yisrael's not allowed to come over here. Right. And if you look over here a little lower, it says Ezra's Yisrael. And if you look over here, Ezra's Noshim. You know, the women weren't allowed to come. It's different levels where the women were allowed to come in, where Israel were allowed to come in, and there's also, I don't know if the picture marks it, but there's what's called Shar Nikna. There was a gate. So that's what he says over here now. What we're learning now, the words. In the Azara, that means in the front yard, as I call it, you make gevulim, you make boundaries. Ad kan Yisrael, till here Yisrael went. Ad kan Kahanim, ubainim bo batim. In it, in the Azara, there were like offices. He calls them batim, like rooms. L'shad tzarchei hamigdash, for all the different needs. For example, there was a lishkas hatulayim. Tulayim means sheep, where they kept the animals. There was a lishkas kohen gadol. The kohen gadol had an office, and so on and so forth. We'll learn later that there were quite a few offices in the wall over here also. And there's, if you see over here on the bottom, in the Ezra Schnutzer section, you see in the four corners, that's also offices that were over there. So he says that Ubonim Babatim, L'shat Tzarchei HaMikdash, you build Kol Bayis Mahem Nikol Lishka. Lishka means an office. Today, even in Hebrew, we say a lishka is an office. So these were offices for different purposes. Okay. So basically, he finished now the floor plan. We learned now the floor plan. In other words, we learned you have to build a Mishkan, and we learned the departments of the Mishkan. We learned about the three different departments in the Heichel. We learned about the Azara. So now he's talking about actual building. Okay, now that you know building, he's now talking about the material with which to build. So he says as follows: when you build a heichel, that means what we call the ulam, kodesh, and kodesh kadosh, the house. When you build a house, vazara and the front yards, also you have to build it. You have to make walls and everything. Bainim bavonim gedolos. They use big stones.
He says bavonim gedolos means it must be big stones.
Well, if you want to have, it says later, then you use bricks. In other words, today you notice houses are built quite quick, right? Well, quite quick.
He's the builder.
I know, yes. How they build quite quick? Because they're not built with brick. When they're built with brick, you have to lay each brick, and you have to put cement on top of it. It's a whole. All the apartment houses years ago were built with bricks. It took a long time. If you have big stones, so it saves you a lot of time. She's saying that they had big stones. If you couldn't find big stones, then you use bricks. Now, levanim are manufactured. You know, the bricks. Bricks are chiseled out from a rock. They're manufactured. There's a form, and in the form you put in cement and you mix in whatever other things you need in it, and it hardens up and becomes a brick. Stone is not something not that you made. They chiseled them out from mountains. There were the pasuk says Yishalayim Harim Sovevlo. Yishalayim had mountains around it, so there was plenty of place where to take out these stones. See, so he's saying now, if you look again, Kishabaynin, when you build a heichel, v'azara, so baynim ba'avonim gedolos, v'im le'motz ravonim, it baynim b'levanim. Ve'ein mefatzlin as avnei habinyan b'harabayis, al mefatzlin oisom u'mesatet min oisom mi b'chutz. V'achakach machnisim oisom l'binyan. He's saying that there's a pasuk that says that you shouldn't use any iron on the stones. Why shouldn't you use any iron? Because the pasuk said, because from iron you make ammunition. And ammunition is makatza yom of shalodim. It kills people. So, and the Beis HaMikdash, the purpose was to extend the life of people. So it's sort of a contradiction. So he's saying that when they brought big stones, this is okay. When they brought big stones, they didn't bring these stones on top of the mountain, on the har where the harabayis, but they had it below. And if they had to shape the stones, so that's what he's saying now.
So the question,
if you look again at the words, he says over him, "Be'aim fatzlan abne habinya b'harabayis." You don't trim the stones of Ella, mefatzlan oisom, u'mesatetin oisom. In other words, the chiseling, forming, mi b'chutz. V'harakach machnis oisom l'binyan. Shenema sheten pasuk avonim gedolos, avonim yikares, v'yaset abayis avnei gozos. V'ayma, and there's a pasuk that says, kevus is iron tools, v'gazan, Gazan is something that cuts metal, like an axe or what. Kol kli gadol, like nishma, b'bayis b'even outside. It wasn't there. But still, how even the big stones, you have to have they're not all straight. I mean, but you have to shape them a little bit. All the shaping was done outside of the harabayis.
But I thought that because you said that the Shamir used to do it.
That's also true. That's true.
So what are they scared of it? What are they scared of it? The whole thing is because of the metal. So what are they care of?
The shamir was used for certain things. And certain things they in the Gemara there's an opinion that the shamir was used for his private home and not for the Beis Hamikdash. It's the opinion of the Gemara. Now he goes on to say, Ein Beinen, Eitz, Boilet, Kal. There's no wood that's protruding in the Beis Hamikdash. In other words, there could be, maybe there was wood between the rocks, but there was no wood that was seen in the Beis Hamikdash. Ella, oy ba'avonim, or it was built with actual stones, oy bilveinim v'sid, or bricks with sid. Sid means a plaster, but some it doesn't mean just plaster. But we're thinking of maybe some it's more something like a cement. Oisin achsadras sha'etz b'chol ha'azora. Ve'ein oisin achsadras sha'etz b'chol ha'azora. And you don't make any, achsadra means like a balcony. You don't make any wooden balconies in the Azora. Elo shall avonim, all of them. If you wanted to make a balcony, you have to make it either from stone or from brick. Comes along the Ravid. Look at the Ravid over here, the print in the middle, and the words Ein Boinim.
You can see it. You can see it.
I see it. On Ein Boinim, Elo. Eitz boilet klau, that we don't have any wood. So, Aleph stands for Amar Avram. The name of the Ravid was Avram. So he's saying Amar Avram. Avram said, V'aloi, but Lishkas Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Gadol had an office, and Sho'etz, it was Haisa, it was from wood. That's one question. Another question he has, Ubesimchas Beis HaShe'eva, when it came to Sukkot, Ubesimchas Beis HaShe'eva, so Makifin Kol HaZorah Bezustara, they made a balcony. In other words, in this, going back to our picture, in this bottom part of Ezra's Noshim, so over here, around the whole balcony, they made a balcony. And the balcony was made for the women. And it was made, Ella, Ubesimul Beis HaSheva, Makifin, Kol HaZorah Gzustra. So,
Gzustra was what was Gzustra?
A balcony.
Oh, right.
Elo,
Lay Asra.
or also title Kol Eis, El Eis HaMizbeach. V'hi Ezra's Kahanim. Misha Nikna V'fnim. Abu Be'ezra's Noshim Ubahara Bayis Mutter. In other words, if you look at the words of the Rambam that we're learning, come to the Rambam says there was no wood, nothing was made from wood. Comes along the Raiva and says, no, you had a balcony. She says we have to say that not that there was no wood at all. There was wood. Where was the wood? In Ezra's Noshim, in the front part. But other than that, there was no wood. So that's the machlokes between the Rambam and the words that is. I mean, from the Rambam is mashma that it was no wood at all, and that I would ask, what do you mean no wood? There was the office of the Kohen Gadol, which was Ezra's Eitzim, and there was the balcony was made for the women for Simba Bezra Shevet. So the question is, how come the Rambam says there's no wood at all? So someone will say a teretz. And to say a teretz, that really the lishka of the Kohen Gadol was from stone. But in it, they also stored wood for the Mizbeach. So because they stored wood there, that's why they called it Eitzim. But not that it was made from wood. They stored wood in that room, so they said Lishkas Eitzim.
So the Rambam saying, "Ain't burning, don't build."
Oh.
But you,
That's what they want to say.
Very good.
And about a question about the balcony they made for the women. So they want to say that the Rambam holds that it was like a temporary structure. In other words, it was normally when you want to build a balcony, you drill into the wall, into the stone, and you put beams in there. It wasn't that there was beams in there from wood. It was a wooden balcony, but it wasn't a part of the structure. So that's why in the structure itself, the Rambam holds, there was no wood. Are you saying Lishkas Kohen Gadol? No, it's just because it's stored wood. Are you saying the balcony? The answer is it wasn't really it wasn't a built-in the way you built the balcony. It was, let's say someone will come here and build along here a structure, but it's not part of the wall. If it becomes part of the wall, like you make people have a balcony, so it's made, the steel goes into the wall. So the wood beams will go in, but it wasn't that way. So that's how they explain the difference between the Rambam and the Raiva to straighten out this halacha.
Sure, thank you very much.
Like they did by the Koilel stone.
Huh?
Like they did by the Koilel stone, Bar
The Koilel?
Stone Bar
Oh, yeah, okay.
They built outside? The thing they built outside?
Put a ban on that.
I don't know, there must be a purpose of why they're making that.